Ready? And welcome to Lorene's Bits and Pieces. Oh yeah! So in this channel, what we'll be doing is a lot of bits and pieces, all sorts of stuff, because, well, let's just say this vessel is not willing to be defined. So to start off with, I've had this as a little plan for a while now to dive into some cooking. I've got a heap of books and cookbooks and things, and some of them I have played with, some of them I haven't, and so I thought, well, let's just start this series. And it's Tatiana's Table by Paulina Simons, and this story is about this lady called Tatiana who loves to cook, but she generally cooks straight from her head. She has no recipes at all. And as you can see, we're only a few pages into this book, and all of a sudden we have this recipe that pops up, and there are several recipes throughout this book, and it is an amazing story of I'll just read the back of it here for you. So many years have passed since that first time Tatiana made lazy cabbage for Alexander. Yet it was still vivid in her mind. Her grandmother's slightly hoarse, quiet voice, the taking of the tram across the river, the waning afternoon, the ache in her limping, broken leg, but above all, the desire to make something for someone for no other reason than to please him. So, what we're going to be making today is lazy cabbage, the very first recipe in this book. So I'm going to head off now to the supermarket, grab the bits and pieces that I don't have at home, and I will see you back soon.
We've got the groceries. Let's go home. Get cooking.
We're home with the groceries now. The recipe is asking for 1 cup of cooked rice. Now, I'm only going to make half the amount of mixture. I don't have a big family of 4 or 5 to cook for, so some of this will be for my dinner and the rest will be going into the freezer for laters. So let's get cooking that rice, hey? Okay, so this is how I cook rice. So we've got our 1/2 cup measure. Put because I'm just, as I said before, just making half the amount. Right, it's around about 1/2 cup. That'll do. Right, and I've got my pre-boiled water. My element is already on, and basically what I do is go 1, 2 and a half, and sometimes I do just a little splash for good measure. And basically all we do now is just wait for that to come up to the boil and stir it a little bit while that's happening. Put the lid on and just let it sit on a low heat for 11 minutes. Turn the heat off, take the pot off the element in this case, because you know we're not cooking with gas, we're cooking with electric here. And then what we do is just let it sit for 5 minutes just to finish that cooking process and the evaporation process. Next we have the bacon. Now the recipe actually calls for about 250 grams of bacon, which is what this amount is, and as I said before, we're doing only half the amount of this. So let's see, this is a massive thing, so I only need 1 piece of bacon as opposed to, I'll pop the rest of that in the freezer for later. And what I'm going to do is just cut this up just quickly. Let's just take all of that off of there now. Oh, look at that lovely fat there. This recipe actually asks for a lot of butter. Now, I'm looking at all that yummy juices that's come off of the bacon there, and I'm like, well, do I really need that much butter? Probably not. So let's just pop this off to the side and reuse that bacon fat. delicious. It's asked for 900 grams or 2 pounds of ground or minced beef sirloin, browned in a pan with a little butter. So instead of doing that, let's do half that amount of ground beef, which is about 500 grams thereabouts, or 1 pound, and let's brown that off using the same butter. And here we've got some 500 grams, as luck would have it, of 5-star beef mince. Let's just dump all of that right in there. Cooking with electric can be challenging at times to get your cooking times right, and to really, well, if you've been cooking with gas for a while, which I've spent probably the majority of the last 10 years cooking with gas, electric can be a bit of a hard adjustment. But I grew up cooking with electric, you know, the old coil elements. So it was just having to go back to basics and remembering what it was like to cook with electric, and things like you have to turn the elements on quite a way before you start cooking, especially if you want to brown things or, you know, make things crispy or anything like that. You can't, otherwise they just kind of boil before they'll actually brown. Oh, look at that, isn't that great? Yum. I don't know what it is about the smell of cooking bacon and onions and things like that that just makes the old taste buds get really, really zinging, don't they? It's like when you walk past the sausage sizzle at Bunnings. It's like, whoa. You might not even be hungry, but you still want to have that jolly sausage with the onions on it, don't you? Right, I'm just going to let some of that fluids cook out of there a little bit. Alrighty, so it's asking for 1 whole onion. Now obviously we're cutting this recipe in half, so let's just cut the onion in half, and the rest of this onion I'll actually chop up and you put it in the freezer. You can actually store your onions really safely in the freezer, and just in a, you know, Ziploc bag. So the other half of this onion will be saved like that, and I can use it in cooking in another recipe, so I'll deal with that one later. Okay. This is the way I like to chop my onions. If it has to be finely chopped, make sure you've got a nice sharp knife. And the other cool handy trick that I've learned since living in Australia, for those of you who don't know me, that I actually was born and raised in New Zealand, is I actually keep my onions in the fridge. One of those reasons for leaving the onions in the fridge, this hole, just like you just saw it, that's just comes straight out of the fridge, is because when it's cold, it doesn't make me cry when I cut it up. And the other reason is it makes things last longer. So that's why I leave my onions in the fridge, mostly for the crying reason. I don't particularly like crying when I cut my onions. So there we go. Okay. Nice and finely sliced, as you can see. All those lovely little bits, they'll all break up as they're cooking. So just while we're here, we'll also grab this clove of garlic. I'm not going to use just half a clove. I think 1 clove is just fine. Garlic is just one of those things that's absolutely delicious no matter how much you put in. Well, I think it's still delicious. This is beautiful Australian grown garlic. I've just picked it up at the supermarket on that trip. Chop that little endy bit off. Isn't it funny how sometimes even garlic can be a bit like onions and making you get a bit teary. So again, it just asks for this to be very finely chopped. So I like to crush it that little bit first. And yes, we're getting the old sparkles in the eyes. So another little handy trick is to breathe through your mouth rather than your nose, because obviously your nose is very, very close to your eyeballs, which is where all those lovely tear ducts are. Oh, look at that. Isn't that great? There's nothing worse though than getting a big huge clump of garlic in your mix. So in your mouth when you're eating, even on good old garlic bread, it says it in the name, it's gonna be garlic in here, people. But people still don't really like a big old clump of garlic in their mouth, which I understand. And I can hear that the mince over the other side is just about finished cooking out all those juices, and it's browning up properly now with those nice caramelization. So let's go check that out, shall we? That's all done. That is cooking out lovely now. Those nice little browny bits are coming through. Oh, can you just, oh, I wish you could smell this. It just smells so great. Because of course this is going to have the lovely mixture of that bacon juices, the bacon fat, as well as the beef fat. So yum, yum. Alright, I think that'll do for now for that piece. Alright, and the next part we will grab that onion and we will fry it in some butter until golden. Okay, so we've got the good old Australian butter here. It's salted. I prefer butter that's salted. That's just my personal preference. That rice, as you can see, has now cooked. It's just sitting waiting for us. I love to cook for other people. Cooking for myself, just myself, it's not quite so much fun. So I thought I can cook for you guys. Thought that sounds pretty good. Alright, so I'm just going to leave that to cook for a little while now and stir it a few times, and when we come back it'll be all ready to go for the next stage. Alrighty, so we're about halfway through cooking of the cabbage, and I was just reading through the recipe and I noticed that the garlic isn't actually listed as putting it in the little story there, so we'll pop it in now. Oh, the fun and games of playing with other people's recipes, hey? There's that. Get that in there. With all that yummy buttery goodness, the onions, get those flavours going. Up to the next stage, which is add the bacon. All that yummy goodness in there. Oh yeah. Stir it well to combine. Add the meat. And stir that through. This is very, very reminiscent of my mum's beef chow mein, actually. It reminds me a lot of that, but there's a few of the other flavours in there that are a bit different, but this beginning stage is pretty much the same. Mind you, in the beef chow mein there wasn't bacon. So far so good. Now she says add salt and pepper to taste. So I actually really love a good bit of chili in my meals. So I'm actually going to pop a really nice little mix here from Stone Mill of chili and, it's a chili and spice grinder. So it's got a bit of salt in it, it's got a bit of chili in it, it's got all sorts of yumminess in there. Delicious. Alright, that'll probably be enough for that big old meal. And now we go and mix in 1 cup of cooked white rice. And here it is here. So while that's just simmering away and doing its little yumminess over there, recipe now asks for 4 cups of, or 900 mils of canned tomato sauce or passata, and 4 cups of hot boiled water. Now, if we recall, we're doing half the mixture, so it's 2 cups of passata and 2 cups of boiled water. Just to pop them in a pan on their own, just to warm up. So there's one, and if you want to know which version I'm using, there we go. And 2. And now let's get 2 cups of hot water. Something a little I prepared earlier. There's 1. And 2. So she just wants that to warm up, so it's not creating a cooling effect in the pan when it gets added to the rest of the mixture. It's just continuing to keep it cooking, so it doesn't have that high-low business going on with the cooking process. She just wants to keep it sort of at that same level. Okay, that looks like it's steaming and hot. So let's add that to this mixture. Drop that down. Now, because passata is basically 99.9% tomatoes, it can be a little bit salty. About a teaspoon of sugar, just to cut that, so I've done half a teaspoon. So I've turned that element right down to a low temperature now, and that will simmer for about half an hour or so until it's cooked right through. So it should be all mushy, like thick stew, but not like oatmeal. If it's like oatmeal, dilute with a bit more water and stir in a dollop of sour cream if preferred. So there we go, this is where we're at. We're on a low temperature now. I'll set my timer, stir that every now and then, and when we come back, it'll be all ready to go. And there we go, it's all cooked. Even these big chunky bits have cooked through now. So that is how we know it is done. Oh, I'm so looking forward to having some of this for sure. So let's get a wee bit of it in the bowl here. Oh my goodness. Looking so good and yummy. Smells delicious. Here we go. Make sure we get a bit of that bacon in there, a bit of that meat in there. Oh my goodness. So looking forward to this. Ready? Mmm. Yum. And you know, the best part about this is that it's really well-rounded flavors. There's that rich juiciness of the tomato, but also that depth of flavor from the meat, from the beef and the pork being in the bacon. And then you've just got it rounded out with those savory flavors of the onion and the garlic. And it's a simple recipe, really. There's only a few things in it, but wowee, what a combo of flavors. So I'm gonna dig into this now. I hope you have an absolutely great day, and if you would be ever so kind, you could pop a little like in there, or maybe subscribe to this channel. I know it's only a new channel, and I'm super grateful for you guys tuning in and listening to me ramble about random stuff and maybe pick up a hint or two. Hope you have the best of day. Be bold, be brave, be you, my beautiful friends, and I will see you again in the next video. Mwah.